More about this evening is Senator Tim Kennedy. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Great to see you.
You sponsored one of this bill, actually,
yeah.
And you are a freshman, and this is a big priority for you. You and I talked during the campaign, and you said you would be willing to hold up everything for this bill. So you must be pretty pleased.
Yeah, well, not only myself, but my colleagues. Today was a major step in the right direction, in a new direction for UB 2020. And, we did it in a bipartisan fashion across the aisle. We've been working very closely together to make this a Western New York bill, Western New York flavor. I can tell you this, that, I'm very excited about the steps that were taken today getting this passed. It was passed overwhelmingly, 53-1, only one dissenting vote. That was a strong message coming out of the New York State Senate, that this isn't just about Western New York, this is about all of us across the state, upstate and downstate. We are all New Yorkers, and the message that was sent today was a very, very powerful one, and this is putting us on the track to get UB 2020 passed in the Assembly this year, also with the support of the governor it will need. And we are working very, very hard to make sure that at least our end of the bargain is upheld, putting people to work. This will create thousands of jobs in the immediacy with construction jobs, and thousands of jobs in the long term. So this is a tremendous bill for the people of Western New York.
I actually even think it was stronger. I think it was 2 more people might have signed on in the end. So it was unusually bipartisan, unusually broad in terms of the Senate, which usually can't agree on anything. So that is a big deal. The interesting thing about this, though, is that the Assembly Democrats weren't huge on it. And we should know also, it's almost a little back to the future here, because UB 2020 started things out, and then after that it became SUNY empowerment, which was a SUNY-wide sort of issue, and then that didn't work, and your predecessor, actually, Bill Stokowski, held up the budget in hopes that it would, and it didn't. And then now the SUNY chancellor has scaled that back a little bit, no longer talking about tuition differential, which you guys have in this bill.
That's correct.
Why did you decide to do that?
Well, it's a major component of making sure that UB 2020 becomes a reality, and the people that know education and the people that know the University at Buffalo the best are the leadership at the University at Buffalo and those that teach there. The president of the University at Buffalo, John Simpson, I just got off the phone with him. They are ecstatic that this bill passed today. Not just that it passed this early in session, but that it passed this overwhelmingly. Again, this is a powerful message from the Democratic Conference as well as the Republican Conference. And I got to give a lot of credit, too, to my colleagues across the aisle. This was Senator Mark Grisanti working very closely with myself.
His first bill,
That's
actually.
right, yeah. And Senator Patrick Galvin and Mike Ranzenhofer and George Maziarz. We're a Western New York block of 5 senators. And, for the last 2 months, this has been a #1 priority of us as Western New York senators to drive the message home in the Republican Conference with those other senators, in the Democratic Conference with myself.
There were concerns among the Democrats on the other side of the Capitol, the Assembly, that this would somehow make access more difficult for low-income students, right? That it would price them out of an education that traditionally has been the entry point for a lot of people. And there were a lot of people in that conference who are graduates of the SUNY and CUNY system and feel very strongly that they want to see other students to be able to do what they did.
Well, I can tell you this. Those fears are unsubstantiated with this bill. This bill ensures there's more accessibility and affordability. This bill actually takes pieces of the tuition differential and puts it back into the affordability aspect of UB 2020 as a program and as an institution of SUNY. What this bill also does is it says that any individual that comes from a family that makes less than $60,000 a year is going to have their tuition frozen. So there will be no tuition differential. So all of these pieces ensure the accessibility and the affordability of all New Yorkers at the University at Buffalo with this piece of legislation.
You've written a letter that was signed by almost all of, I think, of your Democratic colleagues to the Speaker, asking for him to participate in a bipartisan process that you would spearhead, bringing everybody to the table to try and get this passed.
That's correct.
If at this time, are you thinking that this would be a stepping stone towards a broader statewide effort effort?
That's exactly what we're looking for. And, you know, the Assembly is controlled by Assembly Democrats.
Sure. Mostly
the governor is
downstaters.
a Democrat.
Yep.
And when you look at those that signed this bill today that represent the downstate interests, they signed on to the University at Buffalo 2020 bill and legislation in its entirety today with the overwhelming support. This letter that we drafted sends support for UB 2020 in its entirety to Speaker Sheldon Silver and to members of the Assembly delegation, including members from downstate, that this is good for the people of Western New York. That in the past, UB 2020 had become synonymous with the dysfunction of Albany. Today, moving forward, UB 2020 in this legislation becomes synonymous with hope for the people of Western New York. And that's the message that's been crafted in that letter, and that's the message we're sending to the New York State Assembly, and that's the message we're sending to the governor.
Are you, you haven't received, I mean, you just wrote this, you haven't received a response yet?
It was put together, signed today, dated today after the passage, and it'll be sent out today.
You know, the governor also included in his budget proposal 2 pieces of what the SUNY Empowerment Plan was, which was procurement and the public-private partnership issue.
Right.
That's not enough for you guys?
Right. Well, the tuition differential is really the driving factor, but all of the tuition differential, which you know, was the most contentious piece of the legislation in the past, goes directly into capital improvements for the University at Buffalo 2020 program. Again, we are talking about the creation of thousands of jobs in the immediacy with construction jobs. And in the long term, thousands of jobs for the people of Western New York who are starving for jobs. And, you know, downstate, I've heard statistics that said that, you know, New York City has 3% of the nation's population, but last year alone had 10% of the nation's job growth. Those are tremendous, tremendous statistics, and the people that represent that part of the state should be proud. In Western New York, we have had just the opposite effect. You know, we have had thousands of people leaving the region to go not just downstate but out of state. It's because of the lack of jobs and opportunity. And I'll tell you, what's more powerful than anything else about us passing UB 2020 today is that just yesterday Forbes came out with a study that said that the city of Buffalo in the Buffalo-Niagara region is the second most difficult place to find a job in the nation.
Well,
we are sending a message across the state today that we are paying attention in Albany, we are paying attention to the needs of Western New York, and as a delegation from east and west of the Hudson River, we are sending a message on both sides of the aisle that this is important to all New Yorkers.
Okay, well, we hear you, Senator, and I appreciate you for being here. Tim Kennedy, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
It's good to see you.
My pleasure.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You're funny.